Hey everybody, this is TJR. In case you haven't heard yet, the Stairway to Heaven versus Taurus, or what is sometimes referred to as the Led Zeppelin versus Spirit lawsuit, is going back to court on Monday, September 23rd. And because of this, I thought I would look back at my original video where I first discussed the differences and similarities between these two songs. And I thought I would discuss where I stand on this particular lawsuit now in 2019, because my opinion on this has grown and evolved. Now, before I proceed, I want to just give a few quick recaps. Taurus, the song, was released before Stairway to Heaven. Led Zeppelin did actually tour a few shows with Spirit. And Jimmy Page did have the band's debut self-titled album that featured the track Taurus in his record collection. He did tell the court that he had the album, but that he never listened to it. And to me, that always sounded like Bill Clinton saying, "I smoked, but I never inhaled." Right. Now, I should add that the two songs are completely different, musically speaking. It is only the opening guitar intro to both songs that is in question. Now, one thing that hasn't changed in regards to my opinion is that I have no doubt that Jimmy Page did hear Taurus and that he did use it as the basis for Stairway to Heaven. What has changed, in my opinion, is that I no longer think he copied it enough, I stress the word enough, to make this plagiarism. Jimmy Page has committed some pretty deliberate and obvious acts of plagiarism in his career. He outright ripped off Dazed and Confused. He ripped off the lyrics for Whole Lotta Love. He took a public domain song and put his own name on it. And he has swiped passages from other songs so closely that I'm surprised that there haven't been more lawsuits. Now, the Stairway to Heaven lawsuit falls into that last category. It's a passage in question and not the whole song. But ever since I got the chance to see the actual notated sheet music for Taurus, which, by the way, I want to add, is not easy to do because it has not been commercially available and I was unable to find it on the internet until recently. But until I could actually compare it side by side with Stairway to Heaven, I can't honestly say anymore that I feel this constitutes plagiarism. Throughout popular music, there are lots of artists who write a song by using another song as the basis for it. But what they do is they change it enough to where the songs are different. This especially happens in film, TV, and in commercial advertising. A director wants a certain song or piece of music and instructs a songwriter or composer to create something that sounds like it and or feels like it, but is still different enough to avoid a copyright lawsuit. But in spite of what I've just said, that doesn't mean that Led Zeppelin couldn't lose this time. Stairway to Heaven comes really close to sounding a little too much like Taurus, in my opinion. And one thing that helped the defendants win the case the first time is that the audio recordings were not allowed as admissible evidence during the court proceedings. I really do think that if the original recordings could have been played in court, that Led Zeppelin could have very well lost the first time. And if I'm not mistaken, it does look like this time the plaintiffs will be able to use the original recordings as evidence. And even though I think that Jimmy Page changed things up enough with Stairway to Heaven, these two recordings do come close enough that if allowed in court, it could completely turn the tables on Led Zeppelin. Now, since the original Stairway to Heaven versus Taurus verdict, we have seen two other major music copyright lawsuits where things played out differently. I am referring to the Katy Perry Dark Horse case and the Robin Thicke Blurred Lines case. Stairway to Heaven versus Taurus was not frivolous in my opinion, but the Dark Horse and Blurred Lines cases are, in my opinion, the very definition of frivolous, and yet both were won by the plaintiffs. Now, if the plaintiffs on the Stairway to Heaven lawsuit had won the first time, I don't believe it would have set any kind of bad precedent, as many people seem to feel it would, because to me, it was never completely without merit. But the aforementioned Katy Perry and Robin Thicke lawsuits have, in my opinion, set a very dangerous precedent. I stated this in a previous video, that these two cases are the musical equivalent of stating that you can copyright the letters of the alphabet or a common phrase. Both of these lawsuits need to be appealed and overturned. Now, one thing that the defendants do have in their favor is that the estate of Randy California is still going to be represented by Francis Malafie. Hopefully I've said that name right. He represented them in the first trial. Now, I want to state I'm no legal expert, but from everything I have read, I honestly think that he handled the case very poorly on behalf of the estate of Randy California. And in some instances, I think he even helped hand the victory to the defendants. I have no reason to believe that he could do a better job this time, except that this time he might be able to use the audio recordings as evidence. And I do believe that this could heavily influence the jury this time around if he gets to do this. Now, had Jimmy Page lost the first time, it definitely would have been some karmic retribution. I would disagree with the decision, but I would still agree that it didn't set a bad precedent. If he loses this time around, it is still karmic retribution, but now it helps to continue the dangerous cycle of encouraging more unwarranted lawsuits like the Dark Horse and Blurred Line cases. Both of these cases have had a chilling effect on music, music culture, and songwriting. And the only way this tide will turn now is if, moving forward, all these cases start to lose in court. Just like with the Stairway to Heaven versus Taurus lawsuit, the defendants of the Katy Perry Dark Horse case hope to appeal, and I hope they do, and I hope they win for the sake of musical creativity and songwriting throughout the world. So, to sum up, in 2016, I thought Spirit had a case, and had Led Zeppelin lost, I would have shed no tears for Jimmy Page. But now, if they lose, it's one more nail in the coffin for musical creativity. And for the sake of art and culture, Spirit has to lose. And so does every other music artist that brings an unwarranted lawsuit to court. I have always been, and probably always will be, a big fan of Led Zeppelin and a huge admirer of Jimmy Page's work. However, this doesn't mean that I excuse him for the times that he has committed plagiarism, for the times that he has stolen. Being famous and being a musical genius does not mean that it's okay to steal from people without giving them their due. We all allow ourselves to be influenced by the music of others, by what came before, and we all use that to help with our own creativity. However, Jimmy Page has certainly been guilty of stepping over that line into outright theft. In this case, however, I think he changed it enough to where it's not plagiarism. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment. As always, if you like what I'm doing, be sure to click like, subscribe, and smash the notifications icon so you can know when I release new videos. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.